Hey everybody, before we put all of this electronics inside the chassis, what you want to do first is test them. You don't want to mount the ESC and the motor and the servo and everything, spend all that time just to find out something doesn't work. And it's very important to test out your servo and center it so that when you put on the servo saver servo horn, you know it's going to be centered. Otherwise, you might have to take it out apart and then reinstall it. So that's what we're going to do right now. So I have here my battery, and I have not cut the wires yet. This is from an old setup. I haven't cut the wires yet, so I'm going to be using this shorty pack right here. So let's get started. Let's see. So it's very clear on my receiver here, which is steering, which is throttle. So here is my servo. I'm going to put that into the steering slot. All right, it might be this direction. Okay. And here is the ESC. All right. I have a fan here. I'm going to have to figure out which slot it goes to. But for now, I'm going to put it, don't think I have anything else here, so I'm going to put it in the aux position. I'm going to plug this in, make sure the red goes to the positive, black goes to the negative. You don't want to find out why that's very important the hard way. All right, here we go. So I'm going to first turn on the MX6 transmitter here. And then I'm going to put the switch on. Okay. This was already previously binded, so I know this works. I can see the fan, ESC fan's working, so I know I'm getting power. So let's go ahead and put a little throttle. I don't know if you can see that, but the motor is spinning. This ESC right now is set up without reverse, so I'm going to make sure that's not backwards when I put it in the car. And here's the servo. I don't have a horn on it yet, but let's make sure that works. I can hear it, and you can probably see it. Move the finger out of the way. You can probably see it spinning. All right, there we go. Now let's figure out the fan. I always have trouble with the fan. It never wants to work on the first try, and sometimes you have to put the plug in several places before you figure out which way it goes. That's not it. That's not it. Turn this over. And there we go. So that's how you make sure all your electronics are working. Now I can unplug it, turn it off, and go ahead and install it in the electronics, put it in the chassis. All right, that's what I'm going to be doing next. I'm going to move everything down to the garage and do some soldering there. Be right back. Okay, I'm back in the garage. So first thing I want to do is to go ahead and mount the motor back into the chassis so I have a steady workspace to work on. And notice here I have a blue aluminum motor plate, and this came with the TT-02RR chassis kit. I'll link the part number below. If you want to go brushless, I highly recommend getting this motor mount plate. I'm going to have to take this off again later on and change the spur gear, but for now it's fine. All right, so what you need for this part of the build here is to have a very hot soldering iron. You may need a pair of scissors. You may need a pair of crimpers. You can use a pair of scissors, it's not that hard. You need solder, flux and something to apply the flux on. And I usually just use a piece of tube or whatever. It's not a big deal. And very important that you protect your eyes when you do this. You never know when a little splash of flux or solder might fly into your face, so I always wear goggles. So I'm going to go ahead and take these wires off this motor. And I've detached the wires from the ESC, so I have a little bit of head start here. So we're just going to pretend like this is a fresh install. And I know that I want the ESC to not be too close to the motor. So I would say about there. You would normally put the servo here and try to mock it all up. And I've already done that. I know it's going to be just around here. I'm going to be trimming these 3 wires just long enough so they'll reach over, plus a little bit more. So I would say that is adequate right there. And I usually just cut with a pair of scissors. You can use whatever you have. You can use your crimper. My crimpers are kind of old, so I only use it to crimp the wires with. All right, I got those going. And I'm going to double check to see if I have the wires in the correct sequence. You can see ABC over there on the motor, and on the ESC it says ABC. So I know that the wires does go in this orientation. Orange on the end there, the yellow in the middle, and the blue in the front. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is just do a little bit of crimp. Like I said, these are pretty old crimpers. They work okay, but they're not terrific. I hope you have a newer set and they work better for you. You can always do this with a pair of scissors. You don't need to go out and buy a pair of crimpers just for one-time use. It's that simple. Let me demonstrate doing it with a pair of scissors. All you do is just cut into the plastic and turn it all the way around. Just keep rotating the wire so you're scoring the plastic. And when you think you have a full score all the way around, you just pinch it with your fingernails and you peel it off just like that. So you don't need a pair of crimpers just for stripping wires. You can easily do it with a pair of scissors as well. Okay. All right. See? Easy. So first thing I like to do is to dip all of the exposed ends into the flux. Okay. Get a good coating of flux there. Oops. And then yours may look brand new here, but I had this attached here before. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to just clean that up a little bit if I can. If not, I'm just gonna put a little bit more flux and solder here. Okay. All right. Just freshen that all up. Okay. All right, there we go. And so I'm going to put a modest amount of solder just to the bottom of these wires. So to this side of the wire, so that when it lays down, it will have a little coating of solder already, and I'm going to put a little pull on the motor, and it should all come together. Okay. So I don't have the greatest soldering technique. I'm sure there's other videos that would show you how to solder something better. But this is my take on it. This is what I'm going to do. So coming from I'm not a beginner anymore, but I'm not an expert at this either. So I just want to show you that you don't need a lot of skill to do this. And you can probably save yourself a lot of effort, a lot of money actually, by doing this yourself, rather than paying someone at the hobby store to do it for you. And it's probably a good, important life skill to have. So I'm putting a little bit of solder to the bottom of that. Now for the other one, I do have a little handy helper next to me to hold the wires, but I don't think I'll need it. I think I can handle this. And I'll put some on the third wire. Okay. Now I'm going to put some flux onto the motor, and I'm just going to use whatever I have around. Ideally you have a brush dedicated to that, but I don't. I'm just going to take a little dab of, that's a big dab, but there you go. Take a little dab of flux and put it onto there. Going to heat that up and get a nice little pool of solder going onto each connection. And if you're watching this video and you are a much more skilled soldering expert than I am, please leave me a comment below. Give me some tips to do this better in the future. And I'm sure everybody else who's watching this video for the first time will benefit from your expertise. I appreciate it. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to drop a little bit more solder on here. And drop the wire down. And that's all it is. There's one. Sorry guys, I just couldn't get a good take on putting these together without my hand being in the way and everything. But I guarantee you there are other videos out there that will show you how to solder a motor much better than what I just did here. Hopefully I'll improve my skills in the future and I'll do another video on that. But let's go ahead and move on to the battery plug. So for the battery plug, I am going to be using a Dean's connector battery from that ProTech TCS battery. And I know the wire will come just above the spur gearbox right here. So I'm not going to trim it too short. I have the option of running the battery from this side or from this side, but I think I want to leave the wire a little bit longer just in case if I change my mind in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it from here. And do what I did with the, I think I need to cut those a little bit better. Let me double check. Yeah, I need to trim the black one a little bit. Alrighty. So there you go. A little bit more even now. And I'm just going to go ahead and take off the shield with my scissors, and do the same with the black wire. All right. So from here, the first thing I like to do, because I'm prone to forgetting, is to put on the heat shrink. And I like to just put just about a quarter, I don't know how long this is, this may be in ½ an inch, so that I don't leave an exposed connection, especially on the Deans. There's really nothing covering the end of the connector. And like I said, the battery is a Deans or a T connector, so I'm going to be soldering it to my ESC. And so this would be the side that connects to the battery, and this is the side I need to solder on. So here is my jig. I got this on eBay. I believe it was maybe like $10–15, and it came in pretty handy. I used this last week to solder on a XT60 plug last week, and it was pretty much the best soldering job that I've ever done on a XT60. There's Mini T, XT90, XT60. There's 2 XT60s there, male and female. So there we go. Let's tighten that. I'll try to find this and put a link in the description below as well. And this is the other side. Okay. All right. Let me get the iron hot and ready. Be right back. All right, just like I did with the motor, I put a little bit of flux on both connectors and on the wire. I also put a little bit of solder there as well. So all I'm going to do is try to heat this up. And put them together. Okay, that one is okay. It's not great. After I put the shield on the heat shrink on there, it should be fine. It's gonna go like that. All right, let's go ahead and do this side. Alright, not too bad. I'm going to slip the heat shrink on there and take a look. Okay, I'm going to let that cool down a little bit more, and I'm going to tighten those heat shrinks, and we're ready to go. Okay, the joints look adequate. I'm sure somebody can do it much better, but I think it's going to work for my purposes. And all I do is roll this heat shrink over, and you can use a heat gun for this. I like to use a lighter, I don't like whipping out my heat gun and standing there. I think the lighter is much faster. Let me turn this over. And if you are doing this for the first time, just be real careful with the lighter, obviously. And there you go. It probably could have been much better. I melted the Dean's plug there a little bit, but it's going to be good enough for me. So the battery and the ESC is ready to go, and motor's ready to go. I'm going to head back upstairs and install the servo. Be right back. All right, I'm back upstairs. Before I do anything, I'll move on with the other electronics. I have it plugged into the battery that I'm going to use. I'm going to test my soldering skills there. We turn on the transmitter and turn on the ESC and make sure everything still works. All right. Looks like I did an okay job with soldering. So I'm going to end this video here. And in the next part, I'm going to be installing the servo. I want to show how I put on the servo saver and hook it all up together and set the ESC in place. So I hope you learned something on this video. If you have any questions or comments and any critique of my soldering skills, please leave a comment below. Like and subscribe. Appreciate you watching. See you in the next one.